A different way to conceptualize zone coverage. This grid is a visualization of the areas of the field that zone coverage is trying to cover. So you have your 3 deep zone areas, you have your hook zone area, you have your 2 flats, then you also have, between those deep thirds, you have 2 seams, and you also have below that 2 curl areas, and over at the sideline, between the deep half or deep third and the flat, you have your holes. So all coverages are trying to fill these areas in different ways. With cover 2, you'll notice the deep halves do a pretty good job of covering the outside deep thirds, but leave that hole there in the middle of the field for that middle deep third. Often it is the middle hook player's job to try and cover that gap as much as possible and help the safeties out. In cover 2, this is a mid-read, although often you'll see people do this with their user defender. The 2 vertical hooks on either side of that mid-read player are going to be protecting the seams on anything vertical, otherwise they're going to play the curl. So you could almost call them seam curls, I guess. Then you also have the flat defender out wide, protecting the flats. Those are covered. The area that people usually will attack is that outside sideline hole. And you'll see that with plays like slot outs, smash, hitch seams, curl flats, plays that put that outside flat defender in a high-low. Next, we have cover 3, and cover 3 obviously will cover most of these holes pretty well. There's still some obvious spots that it has trouble with. Those outside sideline holes are kind of still there. However, the curl flat player over there usually does a little bit of a better job of getting depth. Sometimes you'll notice that the hard flat area, or the bottom of the flats, is still open in cover 3. And then you also have the seam area between those deep thirds that can be really, really effective. The yellows in cover 3 are called hook curls. They're going to protect the hook and then work their way out to the curl. And curl flats are exactly that. They're defenders that are going to try and defend the curl and then rally to the flat. In 3 match, you will see seam flats instead, and they will take anything up the seam and then rally back to the flat. It's the same basic idea. Cover 4, you're going to see that across deep, you're going to have the outside thirds covered. You're going to have both seams covered. But that deep middle area, you could maybe squeeze a post in there if you hit it just right. The other area that's kind of weak in this coverage is going to be that hard flat, the bottom of the flats. So sometimes outside hitches, stuff like that, are really effective. And you still somewhat have that outside hole shot, depending on how effective the flat defender is. You sometimes see it attacked with deep outs. One thing all forms of zone coverage struggle with is triangle stretches, which we'll go over here in just a minute. Let's take a look at how 4 verticals attacks all of these different zone coverages. So cover 2, you're going to have the 2 outsides, and you're going to have that post conversion there. The outsides are going to be able to hit those hole shots. Well, meanwhile, you're going to have that post that's going to be able to attack that deep middle third. Versus cover 4, obviously all 4 of them are going to be capped, but we can still leverage to try and attack that deep area with that post. But what you're more likely going to see is the hook defenders try and rally deep, the verticals, and you're going to be able to hit that curl underneath. Versus cover 3, you're going to have both the seamers, and you're going to be able to really attack the seams. You can basically just read that deep third and see who's he going to cover. Depending on the awareness of that receiver running that route this year, sometimes he might run that post. You can still sometimes get those posts underneath the deep third, although in real life you shouldn't, but that's Madden. And then let's look at how triangle reads affected. Here's mesh, and of course here's the triangle. We've gone over this before, but you can really see how that deep out is going to hit that outside hole area. You have the flat that's hitting the hard flat area, and then you also have the crosser that's entering and also needs to be defended by the curl and the flat. So you really are going to put that flat defender in an ultimate bind where he cannot cover all of that. Every part of his zone is being attacked, and that's why you're going to always get one guy open. One final note is that the meta over the last several Maddens has been a coverage that is inappropriately called double mabel or cover 3 double mabel. Double mabel usually involves a hard flat or cloud flat, a curl flat, and a deep third along both sidelines. This provides 3 levels of coverage, protecting that whole area, the deep third, and the hard flat. While a user defender will try and play the hook, both curls, and sometimes both seams with 3 deep coverage behind it. This, of course, assumes that the user defender is able to cover that much in the middle that successfully. Most, outside of the MCS level at least, are not. The easiest place to attack this coverage is the seams, or to attack the middle of the field with multiple routes that one user defender cannot cover all of. So you'll see sometimes someone attacking it with mesh or with crossing routes. These kind of routes are really effective at going and attacking where the single hook player cannot cover it all, even if he's playing like he's Superman. Make sure you check me out on Patreon. I'm going to have a lot of exclusives on there, like PDF scheme guides, ebooks, other exclusive content. You're going to be able to get your game film reviewed by me on this channel if you submit me a video link on Patreon. Also check me out on Twitch.